Hello, friends. It's Friday. It's Good Friday. And I'm here to share some thoughts with you on this holiest of days for us as the people of God. And I'd like to begin with these words from Matthew's Gospel, the 27th chapter. Two rebels were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by hurled insults at him, shaking their heads and saying, "You who are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. Come down from the cross if you are the Son of God." And in the same way, the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and the elders mocked him. "He saved others," they said, "but he can't save himself. He's the King of Israel. Let him come down now from the cross, and we will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God rescue him now if he wants him, for he said, 'I am the Son of God.'" In the same way, the rebels who were crucified with him also heaped insults upon him. There's a description of crucifixion that's supposedly passed down by a Roman soldier who witnessed many of them. He wrote, "Of all the sounds in hell, none is more wretched than those terrible cries through the silence of midnight, where crucified men hang in agony and cannot die while a breath of suffering remains in them." Nails through his wrists, his hands, through his feet. His back ripped to shreds, naked. Pain, shame, suffocation. I can't imagine. It was a form of torture that reduced a human being to a quivering mass of flesh. But you have to ask, why in God's name didn't Jesus come down from the cross? Why didn't he take the advice of the chief priest and the teachers of the law and the elders and come down from the cross? My goodness, he was the Son of God. Certainly no mere nails could hold the Son of God to a wooden cross. Why put up with such pain and agony? And wouldn't that have been such a wonderful display of power for Jesus to burst the nails out of the wood and shatter them and descend to the ground, while all those who were gathered around, the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and the elder, would have bowed down and worshiped him? Why didn't he come down? Well, friends, the simple answer is this: the nails are not what was holding Jesus to the cross. It wasn't the nails. It was love. Pure, unadulterated, perfect love. He came for one purpose: to offer his life for ours, his innocence for our guilt and sin, so that we could approach God in love and in grace. John put it this way: "This is how God showed his love among us. He sent his one and only Son into the world that we might live through him. This is love, not that we loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son as an atoning sacrifice for us, for our sins." And friends, it's so important for us to realize that because of Jesus, because he is the Son of God, and because he died in the way he did, now we can approach the throne of grace with confidence. John Stott, in his book, The Cross of Christ, he made this observation: "In the real world of pain, how could one worship a God who was immune to pain? I've entered many Buddhist temples in different Asian countries, stood respectfully before the statue of Buddha, his legs crossed, arms folded, eyes closed, the ghost of a smile playing around his mouth, a remote look on his face, detached from the agonies of the world. But each time, after a while, I have to look away. And in my imagination, I've turned instead to the lonely, twisted, tortured figure on the cross, nails through his hands and his feet, back lacerated, limbs wrenched, bow bleeding from pricks of thorns, mouth dry, intolerably thirsty, plunged into God-forsaken darkness." He writes that is the God for me. He laid aside his immunity to pain. He entered our world of flesh and blood, tears and death. He suffered for us. our sufferings become more manageable in the light of his. Still is the question mark against human suffering, but over it boldly stamped another mark, the cross, the symbol of divine suffering. Two words, probably the two most important words in all the New Testament, two simple words, simply for us. But God demonstrated his own love for us, that while we are still sinners, Christ died for us. God made him who knew no sin to become sin for us, that we might become the righteousness of God. Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law by becoming the curse for us. Follow God's example as dearly loved children and walk in the way of love, just as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us as an offering and a sacrifice to God. If God is for us, who is against us? He who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us, how will he not also, along with him, graciously give us all things? In the same way, the Spirit helps us in our weakness. We don't know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us through wordless groans. See, friends, it was all for us.